That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Against the Ice. I think it's the 11th film directed by Peter Flinth, which premiered at the 2022 Berlin International Film Festival in a sidebar before it premieres on Netflix March 2nd, 2022. A midweek.
That's tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Oh. COVID. Okay. 11th film. Wow.
Mm-hmm. I haven't seen any of his previous.
Oh. This was an interesting story. It's set in 1909, like early 1900s, Greenland. And I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about that area. But apparently Greenland is like Denmarkian? Danish? Is that?
Denmark owned Greenland. Yes. Okay. But actually, I think Norway actually might have owned Greenland first.
So the story is about how, like, in the early 1900s, there was a dispute between the United States and Denmark regarding the land area that is Greenland. Because there was sort of question, because back then topography was not the way we know it now. So it wasn't clear, like, if the two pieces of land that are Greenland are actually, like, two islands that are separated or one land mass.
Because the U.S. Believed that they had control over northeastern Greenland because of something called the Percy Channel.
So there was an expedition that had been made, the Denmark something it was called, that was unsuccessful because those people never returned with the evidence that there is no, that they aren't islands. So another expedition is sent out, a second expedition, which is the one we're focusing on, to find that evidence and maybe even go further to see the truth. So basically, it's this group of people, a captain and his men, and they know that this is a suicide mission because it's out in the damn Arctic, whatever, with no supplies and these dogs and the frigid cold. So when the captain says, all right, we reached our point where we need to stop the boat. We only have X amount of time to go before the water freezes and we're stuck. So who's going to come with me? And all these men trick this new guy named
Iversen,
who joins the mission like in like the second leg of it. So he's newish to the group. They trick his dumbass to go on this mission.
They pick him up in
Reykjavik or whatever. Okay. So he goes. It's a struggle. The most interesting part of the film is the beginning of that trip with the captain and Ivan, which is like the 45-minute point. They do find what?
Iver.
What did I say?
Ivan. It doesn't matter. I also think it's the Perry Channel, not the Percy Channel. I've slopped
the Tyler Perry Channel. So they do find the records from the previous mission. So the proof is there. Like, yes, like it's all one landmass. So great, we won. They go back to where their boat is supposed to be, and they see that these people left them. Because the water started to freeze. So they tore up the ship, built shelter, and then when a ship came by, they hopped on it and left. So these two go back, and of course, they're like, what are we going to do except wait? Okay, in the backdrop of that, the people who left, those other ship people, they're back with the crew. They're back at like Denmark Parliament, I guess.
Yes, where Charles Dance is telling them what's going to happen.
They're basically saying, like, you need to go back and save these people. And he's like, I'm not giving y'all any more money. The first mission failed, the second mission failed, and then these two went on a suicide mission. I'm not spending more money to go find them. Like, y'all failed. But I think an important point to the story is that the crew members who are advocating for the captain and Alan Iversen or whatever, they feel guilty because they know that they didn't do their part. So the second half of the film is just these two men, like in this hut in the middle of the ice, trying to survive, and they're there for like almost 3 years, it seems. When finally, that one crew member, he has to take it on himself to like get a group of people to go find them. They do, bring them back, and then of course that old bullshit ass president of Denmark, whoever that man is. What's his name?
The actor's playing Charles Dance is playing him.
The final scene is him addressing the nation, saying like, thanks to the efforts of this captain who we never didn't believe in, he, now Greenland is whole, basically the end. It's a riveting story.
Sure, it's actually based on the book written by the Captain Ejnar Mikkelsen, who Nikolaj Coster-Waldau is playing. Coster-Waldau also was one of the co-writers that adapted that text into the script.
Oh, yeah. So I think the story is very interesting, and I actually kind of would have preferred to hear more about the dispute between the U.S. and Denmark regarding Greenland and
why they would send these expeditions and all these people risking their lives for this piece of land, and why Greenland is so important to them.
Well, I can see why it's important, but it's also like, why couldn't they do a more official, like, why couldn't the U.S. have also contributed and not make it more of like a bigger effort? Because then it also felt like because the proof is just this drawing with someone saying that it's all one. And it's like, so based off of this little drawing, like, y'all are going to own, I don't know. I wanted to understand that better. But the actual story plays out like something like a mix between that movie, like, Alive and then like The Revenant. Minus all the interesting
shades
parts.
of The Revenant, because there are two polar bear sequences.
Two polar bears.
One of which is better than the other. The other one feels like, I guess they needed to do something. I was reminded a little bit of The Lighthouse, a bit, that vibe.
Oh, yeah.
But again, in a very sterile way, because I don't know if it really realistically gets into, kind of body and mental health issue. It does touch on... Ejnar is starting to see visions of the woman he left behind, and to me that all plays kind of a bit corny. Like, what is it about these two men that are stuck together here, and kind of power plays that happen, which is something like...
Because we don't really get any... Like, their relationships, it's very flat. Like, we don't get anything.
It is, and I don't think Joe Cole, who's playing Iversen, really has much to do. I haven't seen Peaky Blinders, which he's in, but I did see a film called A Prayer Before Dying, in 2017, where he plays an English boxer who's stuck in a Thai prison, also based on a true story. So maybe he's just very much attracted to those kind of arduous, inspired by true events. But again, it really hits a lag.
It feels uneventful.
Because at nearly 2 hours, it's like they could have shaved this down a bit, I guess, because we get the point of them being in isolation. If we're really not going to get into the nitty gritty.
Yeah.
It was produced by Baltasar Kormakur, who's a very notable Icelandic director and producer. The tone, how I felt about this is how I felt about one of Kormakur's films in 2012 called The Deep, based on a true story about this fisherman that survives these sub-zero temperatures after his boat is wrecked. And it turns out he only was able to because he had so much fat on his body. But even that sounds more interesting than I think that how that film plays out. And this feels... Because reading about this, you feel like you know what to expect, and then it doesn't even really give you that.
Yeah, but, this is based on historical events, so I don't necessarily want it to be sensationalized.
Well, based on somebody's memoir accounts, if you will.
But what I will say is, I think I was trying to say is, this film... I think is well done and care was taken, and it does feel like it has some integrity to it. Like, they weren't trying to make it more than what it was. So I appreciate that. It's just not a very engaging watch. I think the history of what happened is more interesting, and I would probably, I don't know, maybe a documentary would have done this story better. I don't know.
Or a different angle. I don't know if adapting this man's memoirs was maybe even the right angle to tell the story about him, if you will. And just even the end subtitle credits about how Iversen never went back out to sea or whatever.
Oh, well, hope not.
Like, well, okay.
What else do you want to say about it?
There's nothing. There's nothing really. It's a film that I watched that I thought was very dry.
Then what would you give it?
Dry ice. I would give it 2.5 out of 5 is more than fair.
I would give it 2.5 out of 5 as well. Thank you.